What's going on YouTube? Cloverbells here, back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today I want to recap the Peoria Regionals that took place over this past weekend. You know, new format, new Pokemon, new rules, and it's the first one of the regulationE. So basically, what we want to do is just go over some key results and takeaways, because it's this month is packed, right? Because we got Sacramento, you know, right around the corner. We got Toronto also coming up, San Antonio, and all these regionals. And Peoria sets the baseline, right? Because now from these results, where do we go from here? Okay, what can we take away that we can use and prepare for the next regional, right? And before we even talk about like the winning teams, right, from Baek and Luka, what I want to do actually first is actually look at the day 1 and day 2 top 12 options, right? So this is on the Victory Road website, and they very conveniently showed us the day 1 and day 2 usage, right? So, and there is a difference between the two. So day 1, right away, a few takeaways is, first of all, Fluttermane's not #1 anymore, but it's still like very, very good. It's not 70+% good, but now it's down to about, you know, a respectable 50% usage, right? So, and then there's a new #1, which is of course our favorite, Iron Hands, okay? There would come a day where Iron Hands would usurp the Fluttermane, and finally that day has come, and Iron Hands in day 1 was the clear benefactor of the new format, right? And it just makes sense, right? Because think about it, this thing has Fake Out, it's super bulky, Drain Punch hits, you know, the big steel types, and then at the same time Wild Charge, you know, does great damage altogether, and it's relatively hard to KO just because of its bulk. And then, you know, it runs an Assault Vest, and then you support it with Landorus Intimidate, and all of a sudden, you know, things get you know, you neuter things with Landorus Intimidate, and now all of a sudden Iron Hands is not taking damage, and then you just heal it right back up. You snipe Fluttermanes with Heavy Slam, you know, all kinds of things that Iron Hands can do. It's just very splashable on pretty much any kind of team, right? Whether you got a Trick Room team, Tailwind team, a balanced team, you know, some kind of gimmick team, Iron Hands, you know, if you're not sure what to fill in a slot, Iron Hands just makes any kind of team better, okay? And I stand by that statement, and the results are evident of that claim, okay? Then we got Fluttermane at #2, of course. Then we got Landorus here at #3. I expected this, right? Think about all the Ogrepons, and think about, you know, the fact that they all share a grass type, which means they're weak to flying type attacks. So Landorus looks relatively strong in this format. You get to intimidate all the physical attackers. This meta is extremely physical, and we'll talk about that in a bit, you know, later portion of the video. But, you know, Landorus, you know, I love this mod. Even in Sword and Shield, it was on almost every single one of our teams, you know, besides Grimmsnarl, and for good reason, okay? The fact that you're a bulky intimidator, you got strong attack, you know, base 145, and then you're able to pivot, you know, with U-turn, and then you have Rock Slide as another move, you know, against other like flying types and other fire types, for example. Landorus is a great mainstay. And then over here, of course, the Fire Ogrepon has a little bit more usage than the Water, but they're both very, very good, right? The two clear winners of the Ogrepons, the Fire type and the Water type. The Grass and the Rock one are relatively niche, although we did have some day 2 results from the Rock one, which we'll discuss in a bit. Tornadus right here, and then Rillaboom. You know what? Actually, if you look at this first 6 from day 1, this is actually a legitimate team, and I believe this is one of our rentals for October. Yeah, this is it. We had the double Grassy Glide combo with Rillaboom and Ogrepon. Then we had Landorus and Tornadus, and then Fluttermane and Iron Hands. Dude, this is a legitimate team. How funny is that? Okay. Then, of course, then you have Cresselia here, rounding it out here. Makes sense. Good speed control. Very, very bulky, of course. Trick Room stuff. Healing with Lunar Blessing. Then Urshifu, without much of a surprise, did dip in the standings, of course, because of this guy, right? The Ogrepon, you know, having Water Absorb, just able to redirect its attacks. All right, and then Chien-Pao here is just at a comfortable 7th slot. Okay, but then if we go into day 2, oh my goodness, Landorus taking the top spot by like a pretty decent margin, you know, 5% extra than the Fluttermane. Now, Fluttermane usage did go up, but Landorus skyrocketed, which makes sense. And Iron Hands is still within the top 3, although it did drop from 1 to 3. Still like, you know, 51% usage. Still very, very good. And now, interestingly enough, the Water Ogrepon was higher use percentage than the Fire one, right? Whereas day 1, the Fire one had more use than the Water. But that being said, if you look at the top 8 or so, right? Let's scroll back up here. notice how it's of the top 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the Ogre-Pons were the fire type, 3 were the water. But then as you go past the top 8, but then from 9 to 16, it's all water. Okay, there's like maybe one Ogre-Pon here that's fire. So that's an interesting result, right? And it makes a lot of sense because, the water does relatively well against the fire one if they both Terra. Okay, so there's that. But then also even more impressive and kind of expected is the Kingambit rise. And we'll, again, also speak more about this later in the video. But we did a whole video on this, on the Resurgence of Kingambit. So if you haven't watched that video, make sure you check that out. But makes a lot of sense. There's so much Intimidate going on. If your Landorus is 61% usage, there's got to be some defiant or competitive Pokemon coming into play here to like discourage that. And Kingambit has been that mon. Whether you're this like bulky Swords Dance, Black Glasses set with Protect, or sometimes people still opt for the old school Assault Vest set. Either way, Stab, Sucker Punch with a boosted attack is really, really strong, right? You don't even have to put it in a Trick Room team. It just does well on its own, right? So it's a nice little deterrent against stuff like Landorus in general, right? And then, Chiyu rose a little bit, right? Because people are trying like, Fluttermane Chiyu combinations, those hyper offensive stuff. Tornadus did drop out of the 5, down towards the bottom part into 10, but it's still like a good mod, right? Like you're able to taunt things, you're able to change weather into stuff like, Sunny Day and or Rain Dance. Sunny Day is really good, especially if you have like Fluttermane Chiyu and the Ogre-Pon on your team, right? And Landorus, Sunny Day, Tornadus just makes sense, right? That's actually a legitimate team. Fluttermane Chiyu and then Tornadus, and then you have like Landorus and Ogre, and then just like maybe Rillaboom or Iron Hands in the last slot there. That's actually really good. And then creeping into the top 12 slot is the Hisui and Arcanine. Again, very, very good Pokemon. Again, another strong Intimidator against a lot of these physical attackers, right? You get to intimidate an opposing Landorus. And then at the same time, Stab Rock Slide is really good against stuff like, Tornadus, Dragonite, Chien-Pao stuff. And then at the same time, Flinch is just so good, okay? And then, Extreme Speed Shenanigans with Chien-Pao, of course, is very, very strong. Choice Band sets, Citrus Berry sets, these are all like very, very good. But yeah, I mean, those are like the first couple of notifications that I've seen. And then, Rillaboom still comfortably within the top 5 as expected, right? Because, people are doing this double Grassy Glide combinations, with Rillaboom and one of the Ogre-Pons. So it just makes a lot of sense. And Urshifu still remained in the same spot, right? Like it's still, within, the top 10. And then it did rise actually a little bit in percentage. And it's actually on the 2 winning teams, which we'll talk about in a second now. But Heatran, of course, still within this top 12 usage makes sense. Heatran is so good. Like if you want to go Sunny Day Tornadus and change the weather against these Ninetale teams, then Heatran gets the benefit of that, and then it's going to get stronger heat waves. So that's why whenever I have like these Ninetales Heatran teams, I don't mind the Tornadus with Sunny Day, because you might take away Ninetales' Aurora Veil, but now you're boosting my Heatran's damage. So you're going to have to pick and choose which one you're going to give me. You're going to give me the Heatran Heat Wave, or you're going to give me the Aurora Veil on the Ninetales, right? And at the same time, it's just a good resist against Fluttermane. It's great against the Fire Ogre-Pon. It walls it unless it runs a grass move. I'm sorry, a ground move. The water one is going to need a little bit of support. I'm sorry. If you have like Landorus and Heatran, then this is why water Ogre-Pon usage is up, right? So that also makes sense. But in the grand scheme of things, it's just another good, strong special attacker with great stats, great bulk altogether. And again, if you're trying to like build a VGC team, like, you can easily just build a squad out of like 6 out of these 12, right? And then just jump on the ladder and get some of these wins. But these are like some of the, just quick and dirty, day 1 and day 2 usage stuff, right? So just make note of that. And then, now what we're going to do is just talk about some of the archetypes that we saw, as well as some of the key Pokemon that maybe you didn't expect to see, but did have a big impact in the regionals, all right? So let's talk about the 2 winning teams first. All right, so now back into the results here. So, of course, it was won by James Baek, triumphing over Luka over here. And we're going to look at both teams here, but let's look at James' team first. So, James ran a Tornadus Rain Dance team, actually. So, it was actually Tornadus Rain that was actually coming into clutch here, right? And I understand a lot of these options here, but the one big surprise, but also not really a surprise, is actually the Urshifu here, right? Because again, Urshifu benefits from the rain. It's able to do more damage, and now that you have Choice Scarf Urshifu, with the Tailwind, so now you're able to outspeed things, okay? Which normally you wouldn't be able to outspeed. and now you're just dealing big damage, you know, with the surging strikes, right? And then at the same time, the Ogre Pawn is also dealing more damage in the rain because, again, you know, Ivy causes a water move and you're doing more damage within the rain here. Okay, now at the same time, Goldango also benefits, you know, from the rain because, again, you're taking reduced fire damage. So then at the same time, you know, Make It Rain Shadow Ball is just very, very good. And then Terra Dragon also makes sense here. You know, you're weak to fire type attacks just in general, so you're able to resist that, and then your ground and ghost weakness / dark weakness just gets neutralized, you know, with the dragon typing. Dragon Terra is very good this format, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I would say Terra Dragon and Terra Fire are the two best Terra options right now. And then look at this Tornadus. Terra Dragon also, again, you know, neutralizing the rock weakness, but again, resisting the electric weakness, or, you know, something from like an Iron Hands Wild Charge for that matter, right? So it makes a lot of sense there. And then, you know, a little bit old school Iron Hands with Terra type Grass, also benefiting from the rain because, again, taking reduced damage from fire, right? Because normally if you do go Grass, that's great against ground type attacks like Landers, for example, and it gives you some immunity to Amoonguss. And, you know, you just don't care about Rage Powder at the end of the day, something like Sinistra, for example. But now what you can also do is, again, you're probably thinking, oh, but now that's weak to Ogre Pawn. Yes, but then if you have Rain Dance, all right, you get to mitigate that damage a little bit. So good idea there from James for this particular Terra type from Iron Hands. But again, look at this. Like, you got Intimidate, you got Fake Out, you got Redirection. Those are the big three VGC condiment tools that you need on a balanced squad. So this is like Tailwind balance offense, as I like to say, right? Because it's not just click Tailwind and go brrr, right? You have balance play, you have flexibility to be able to reposition if you need to, especially with this Urshifu with, you know, U-turn in that sense. So you got that going for you. And then at the same time, you got speed control here with Tailwind. You have a Scarf Pokemon here with the Urshifu. And then the Arcanine here, again, you know, Terra Blast, Terra Fairy is very, very good against, you know, something like an Iron Hands, for example. And then just also other Urshifus, you know, makes sense there. And then it's also a good defensive Terra, right? As we all know, like we've seen this in previous formats, you know, with this Terra Fairy being a good defensive Terra, because, you know, your main weakness is like steel, but there's not a whole lot of steel damage being pumped out this format, right? And or just in general, right? Even some of the main steel mods, they don't even have steel moves most of the time. Like Heatran doesn't have Flash Cannon most of the time these days. You know, Kingambit doesn't have Iron Head most of the time these days. So Terra Fairy is relatively safe as a good defensive Terra, right? And then, you know, just 4 standard rock moves here. So, you know, good play here, good aggressive play from, you know, the physical attackers at Arcanine, Urshifu, and the Ogre Pawn, and even the Iron Hands. And then the Goldango can just put on a bunch of pressure here with nasty plot setup here, clicking Make It Rain, and then, you know, just dealing a ton of damage altogether. But cool team from James. Then if you look at Luka's team, right, similar concept, right? But this is, again, Tornadus, Rain Dance with Urshifu. This is a Sash Urshifu, so that's good. And then this is a Fire Ogre Pawn. So in the finals, we had the Water versus the Fire one, okay? Ivy Cudgel, Horn Leech, Follow Me, Spiked Shield. So there is no Sword Dance on this one. That's because the Swords Dance is on the Kingambit here, and the Kingambit also makes a lot of sense because, again, your Landorus and Ogre Pawn are a little bit prone to Intimidate, so the Kingambit is a nice little switch into that. And then also at the same time, if you just consider like Icy Wind coming out from, you know, either some Ninetales or Milotics, and then even Bleak Wind Storms from like another Tornadus, if you can time a Kingambit switch into those things, you know, you just activate the Fire, right? Because you're getting that speed reduction, but then all of a sudden you just use it to your advantage and gain that big attack, and then, you know, sucker punches just go ham over here. But like I said here, so, and then the other thing is like this Flame has Trick Room here, even though there is choice specs, so that's pretty good. I don't know how often Luka was able to click this. I didn't quite follow his entire run, of course, but, you know, I could definitely see this being like a little bit of a hamper in some of those Tailwind mirrors. So this pretty much helps the Kingambit in this sense, right? So cool idea here from Luka. And then other than that, you know, Landorus is relatively standard here, as is the Tornadus and Urshifu. But again, two really cool teams, and it just highlights how strong Kingambit is right now, which is actually our next topic. So yeah, about Kingambit. So again, the more popular set has been the Swords Dance stuff, of course, just because you can afford to make it extra bulky now and not have to invest so much attack, right? So, you know, for extra survivability, right? So here's another Swords Dance Kingambit here from Jeremy. But it wasn't the only set that was there, right? But it was the most popular one. And it just makes sense because, again, you know, if you're just forcing out switches because they don't want to take Sucker Punch, then you can punish that with Swords Dance, right? And that's kind of you have to play sometimes, right? You know, if they're just expecting the Sucker Punch, you can spring it on them and now you're really boosted. But Riley was one of those that did not go for the Swords Dance set. So if we look at Riley Factura's team, all right, he's actually the one of the few that has Iron Head here, right, with the Biggie Berry, right, but still Sucker Punch and Kowtow Cleave. And then the whole idea here is, of course, you know, you get a little bit more extra recovery, and you have Amoonguss here. So the Amoonguss can give a little bit of redirection support. It can heal the Kingambit here altogether. Oh, this has Grassland. That's pretty cool as well. But again, there's different Kingambit sets that we can use. But again, of course, the most popular one is the Swords Dance set. But there's another one that I also saw that was also a pretty cool set. But by the way, these are like a whole bunch of Swords Dance Kingambit, right? So I'm just gonna like bypass them. It's like, for example, Aeld's team over here. Like again, Black Glass, or in this case, Dread Plate, no difference there. Swords Dance, Sucker Punch, Kowtow Cleave, Kingambit. But there was one from Nails here that I believe did not have Swords Dance. Actually, let me look at this one. Yeah, right here, Nails. So Nails was actually using this combination with Rillaboom. So Grassy Seed, Kingambit here. So now you're getting a defense boost, and now you're still also clicking Swords Dance, and you still have Protect. So you don't have Black Glasses, but that's okay, right? Because you're opting for more defensive bulk. Okay, that's probably couched for a lot of different things, I would imagine. But then at the same time, you still have Terra-type Dark, so that's pretty good as well. But that's a pretty cool set there. Were there other ones? I didn't actually check any of the ones down here. Oh yeah, this one. So this one was also Assurance with Safety Goggles, and also had Iron Head over here. I remember this one. This was Andrew's team. So, you know, again, Safety Goggles able to bypass, you know, the Sleep Powder stuff from like another Amoonguss or the Rage Powder shenanigans in that sense. So another way of utilizing Kingambit. If there is another one that I can find down here, I will take a look. Let's look at Brian's team over here. Is this Swords Dance Kingambit? Yep, it's pretty much Swords Dance Kingambit. All right, so like again, we got to show you like some of the more popular Swords Dance Kingambit sets, but you know there are differences there. But do expect a lot more Kingambits. If you're going to Sacramento, be prepared for Kingambit. Or at the same time, if you want a good Pokemon to try and use and fill out a 6 slot, Kingambit's your person. All right, how about Baxcalibur Ninetales Snow team? So, you know, that was one of the more popular archetypes, you know, within Regulation E early on, especially on the online Limitless tours. It's one of our rentals, but how well did it do? How well did it do in the tour from the weekend? All right, so it actually did relatively well. There's actually some good top cut placements. So none in the top 8, unfortunate. But as we scroll down, we get a few. Okay, so right here at 10-4 from Jared. If we just take a look at his team, so this is actually pretty cool. He's got Protect, Ice Shard, High Horsepower, and Swords Dance. So this is a little bit different than the standard, you know, loaded dice set. Right, but at the same time, you know, you get a priority ice move. Swords Dance, Ice Shard hurts a lot, okay? Especially against, you know, a lot of these flying types, you know, Landers, Tornadus, a lot of these grass types as well, like Rillaboom, Sinistcha, you know, Amoonguss, the list goes on. But then you also had High Horsepower, and that's really good into something like the Ogre Pawns. Heatran, of course, doesn't want to take that. Arcanine doesn't want to take that. Chi-Yu doesn't want to take that. So, makes a lot of sense there. And then over here, you got Freeze Dry Ninetales. I've been waiting to see someone use Freeze Dry Ninetales because, you know, the coverage that Freeze Dry gets is just so good. Think Iron Bundle, right? So, you know, obviously really good into the Water Ogre Pond as well, which if you look at this team can actually give a little bit of trouble, right? But Freeze Dry helps you in that sense, right? And then this is Assault Vest Heatran, you know, with Heat Wave, Flash Cannon, Earth Power, Terra Blast. We were just saying that, you know, not too many Heatrans are running the Steel set, but here it is. And then Scarf Urshifu, of course. This is Follow Me, the Water Ogre Pond at the same time. And then here's Arcanine here. So, good Fire Water Grass Court. And then at the same time, Dragon Fairy Steel. Very, very good balanced team. So shout outs to Jared for a really cool way of, you know, altering what is normally a standard team, you know, with some very specific changes in some of the sets, like Assault Vest Heatran, you know, leftovers Baxcalibur with Ice Shard priority, you know, that's an old Reg C kind of thing, right? But, you know, we get to see it come back here. And then, of course, Freeze Dry Ninetales, really, really good. Okay, then as we go down, we find a few more. Let me see if I can find Dylan's team here. Yeah, oh, here's Abdul's team. Wait, is this Slims? Yeah, I think this is Slims, right? Well, what do we got here, Slim? So this is the standard scale shot stuff, right? And then here's Ogre Pond. Oh, it's got taunt? Okay, Slim. We got taunt here. Woodhammer, Grassy Glide, High Horsepower, Fake Out. Looks like the old Sword and Shield set. Heatwave, Will-O-Wisp, Earth Power. That's a really cool tech, right? I've seen a few Will-O-Wisp Heat Trends, so that's really nice. It's a cool adaptation. And then Icy Wind, Aurora Veil, Dazzling, Disable. Disable Ninetales. I've seen a few of these, right? Normally in this slot, if you had to run some move like that, I've normally seen Encore, but Slim went with Disable, so that's pretty cool. And then this is a standard land reset. So again, another standard 6, but you know, within that archetype, but some niche changes here and there makes all the big difference. So if I had to ask Slim, I wonder how often he clicked Disable and even Will-O-Wisp on the Heatran at the same time, right? So and then even Taunt on the Ogre Pond, that's pretty cool as well. So, you know, Slim, if you're watching, I want to know the answers to my questions, okay? But as we keep going down, is there another one here that I kind of saw? There's a couple that I want to see. We'll talk about this one in a second, right? This is another Baxcalibur team. There was a couple here if I had to keep going down, right? Here's one from Christian Kepler. So this one's pretty cool, right? Sinistra with Baxcalibur, and then here's the Empoleon with Yawn. Oh, this is cool. All right, so normally you might even see like a Milotic here, right? But Christian said, no, I think I like Empoleon for the Steel type as opposed to Heatran. So you give up the Steel type in the Heatran, but you get it in the Empoleon, and then at the same time, you get to put the Arcanine on a team like this, which is pretty cool. And then Yawn is relatively nice. You force repositioning from your opponent. And then, of course, Matcha Gacha, Strength Sap, Rage Powder, Trick Room with the Rocky Helmet set, Terra Water is actually really, really nice. So I like this team a lot. So shout outs to Christian for coming up with this. But then as you go down, all right, you still find a few more Baxcalibur teams. And here's another one, right? There's actually two of them. So here from Riley Coral and Spencer Johnson. So let's take a look at Riley's here. So again, Will-O-Wisp Heatran, that makes a lot of sense. AV Rillaboom with Woodhammer, High Horsepower, U-Turn, Fake Out, okay. Icy Wind, Ninetales with Protect this time. And then this is actually relatively standard besides the Heatran Will-O-Wisp, which is actually kind of becoming more standard. So this is also pretty good. Okay, then down here from Spencer Johnson. Okay, this one had Thunderous with Life Form. So that's pretty cool. Wild Bolt Storm. Okay, I would imagine this is like, you know, if you had to change the weather, you know, into like rain, then the Wild Bolt Storm is the benefactor. And then if you changed it to sun, then the Heatran is the benefactor. So that's like my thought process when I see Spencer's team. So if that is correct, great. All right, and then we get to see Mungus here. So Mungus is actually really cool here. So instead of like Ogre Pond, they've opted for the Mungus. Makes a lot of sense. Oh, that's Sludge Bomb. Okay, that's pretty good into Ninetales actually. So poison coverage is actually looking good into like a lot of these Ninetales teams. So yeah, Arcanine here with Choice Scarf, Terra type Rock. Okay, with Wild Charge, that's a tech. Okay, and here's the AV Heatran with Lava Plume. Oh, is that for Baxcalibur? Oh no, you madman, Spencer. What is this? And then Magna Storm and Flash Cannon yet again. Okay. Oh, this is cooking. All right, I wanna use this team for a video. Spencer, if you're watching, I want this team. Let me use it for a video, please. All right, but anyway, good showcase from Baxcalibur. You see the template, Ninetales Baxcalibur with, you know, some redirector like a Mungus or Ogre Pond. Heatran as a great Steel type. And then another Intimidator like Landorus or Arcanine seems to be the play there. And then, of course, Rillaboom, another Fake Out user, or the Iron Hands, right? That's how you build that archetype. So nice to see it be successful here in Peoria. Next up, Kommo. So I wondered whether Kommo would do relatively well in a huge regional, and it did have some results, just two, but they did. These are good teams. So let's look at them here over here for a second. So we have Mason Colors here, Chessboard. He was a guest on our channel once, so we'll look at his squad first, and then there's one over here a little bit above Aaron Perez. But let's look at Mason's team first, right? Just because, you know, we know him. But again, similar idea here with Kommo, Clefairy, and Sinistra, right? Then you support the team with Landorus, some Fake Out user like Rillaboom or Iron Hands, which he ended up going with the Rillaboom. And the weird choice here was the Titan. You know, this is actually relative. Oh, okay, I see. This is filling in the Snorlax slot, right? Yeah, I see what you're doing here. Okay, so you know you got the Belly Drum set with Liquidation, Aisha. Oh, this is actually pretty good, actually. So, you know, taking the Snorlax role with the with the Sid Titan here. I guess makes sense, right? You know, ice coverage really good against like other dragons like Roaring Moon, Landorus, you know, Kommo-O, for example, Dragonite. These are all things that don't want to have to deal with Sid Titan, right? And then at the same time, Liquidation, really good against the fire types. So I like it. This actually makes sense. Yo, chessboard, I want to run this team. All right, and then if we look at Aaron Perez's team, so this one has Grimmsnarl screens, right, as opposed to something like Ninetales. But then we have the Ogre Pawn and then Sinistcha over here. So still Kommo, Sinistcha, you know, doing their shenanigans. And then you have the Chi-Yu here just allowing the Kommo to deal extra damage here because, you know, again, they're both special attackers. Terra Poison here, whereas Mason had Terra Steel. Makes a lot of sense. Flash Cannon as the other tech move. Still Flash Cannon here, but again, Terra Poison was the option of choice. Still getting that fairy resist at the end of the day. But the cool thing here was actually the Ogre Pawn Cornerstone. Alright, and it is a Swords Dance Ogre Pawn. So, you know, if you can have the redirection support from the Sinistcha, then you can set up the Swords Dance. Okay, then start dealing Horn Leech for, you know, for a little bit more recovery. Iron Hands Terra Fairy, that's pretty cool. But of course, we're Grimmsnarl supporters on the channel, you know, without a doubt. So I like to see this. This is actually really cool. I like to see a little bit more from Kommo. I mean, obviously, you need to set it up, right? And that's always going to be like sometimes a little bit of a hindrance in a way, right? But I still feel like, you know, with the right player and, you know, and the right kind of team, it can do relatively well. But these are two really cool ways to do it, right? Either you're relying on the Clefairy screens with like Intimidate and Fake Out, or you're going to rely on, I'm sorry, when I say Clefairy screens, I mean Clefairy Friend Guard, or you're going to rely on screens, right? And then you can add Chi-Yu over here to just deal extra damage, right? So it makes a lot of sense. All right, next up, we'll talk about Blood Moon Ursaluna, and even regular Ursaluna for that matter. It had a great showing overall, which is nice to see. And I want to start all the way down here, you know, with Mitch's team, because Mitch is basically using our team. So this is our rental, and it's pretty much the same Terras and sets and all. So here's the Arcanine Terra Grasp with Protect, Moonblast, Shadow Ball, Dazzling Gleam, yup. Terrafire, Iron Hands, yup. Cresselia, Terrafire with Psychic, Helping Hand, Lunar Blessing, Trick Room, and Throat Spray, Blood Moon Ursaluna with the Ogre Pawn Wellspring here would follow me. So, you know, this had already won a regulation tour as fixed up by Sebastian and Dorian. Then we took into account their data from that experience, and then we readapted our team with some of their suggestions, you know, from based on that tour, and we created a rental. And this is, I believe, I want to say this is our rental, right? Because it has the same exact sense and Terra types. But it's nice to see that it got a good result here for 6-3, right? But then other teams, I also was curious whether to see anyone would be trying to run the Blood Moon Ursaluna with Chi-Yu, right? So let's go all the way back up here. Did we see that? So here's the first two Ursaluna teams, and there it is actually right here. So we'll get into Leonard's team in a second. So let's look at Justin's team. So this is the non-Chi-Yu version, right? So you get Okie Dokie here with Snarl support, you know, Trick Room Center and Frigraph. You're denying the priority stuff, and then Nasty Plot. Oh, this is dangerous. Ice Spinner, U-Turn. Oh, this is a set, man. Justin Knox is a player indeed. And then this is Life Orb, Blood Moon, you know, with, yeah, okay. Those are three standard moves with Protect. And then Heal Pulse Clefairy, very, very nice. I like it a lot. Very creative indeed. And now we go into Leonard's team, right? Something a little bit more standard. And then he's running Dustclaps. So Dustclaps is, you know, something that people are going to probably try and use a little bit more now, because, you know, people are starting to pick up that it's actually very, very good, especially within a Violet. Super bulky, Pain Split, does so much, right, in terms of like your longevity. And then at the same time, Will-O-Wisp, neutering physical attackers, and the meta is very, very physical. So Will-O-Wisp makes a lot of sense. We got to see that on Heatran a little bit more as well. Brick Break, that's a nice tech. That's great against Ninetales screens. And then at the same time, Blood Moon Ursaluna with Weakness Policy. Who's proccing this? Probably the opponent. But yeah, this is actually really cool. And then again, Chi-Yu allowing the Ursaluna to do like a whole bunch of damage, you know, maybe on swap, like Hyper Voice is gonna do so much. But again, Landorus, Heatran, you know, Intimidate and Fake Out, of course, you know, just allowing the Ursaluna to do the job they need to do, as well as Dustclaps for that matter. And then again, just like Pain Split, able to heal up your allies is actually really, really nice. So I like this a lot. How many of these did we see though? So let's go down. Here's Peter's team. We're gonna feature this tomorrow, so I'm not gonna say anything yet. But Star Raptor with Final Gambit on Trick Room teams makes a lot of sense, right? And it's a flying type with Intimidate, just like Salamence. You don't have to Terra type, terrestrialize it like Landers to get a good flying stab move, so I can understand Star Raptor there. But as we move down here, if we can find a little bit more Blood Moon Ursaluna, yeah, here's another one. So this one, right? So this one has Crest. Again, same idea, but this is a Rillaboom instead of like an Iron Hands here, so this makes a lot of sense too. Is this Grassy Glide? Yes, it is. Okay, so this is cool, and it's Trick Room. Oh, it's Trick Room Sash Fluttermane. Oh, that is dangerous as well. I like this a lot. Arcanine. I love Arcanine on these Blood Moon Ursaluna teams with Cresselia. I think it's really, really nice, especially with the Ogerpon Wellspring as for supporting the Arcanine and the Blood Moon Ursaluna. That's kind of how I started my own core, right? And then we just went from there. So I like this a lot. If we keep going down here, can I find like a couple more Blood Moon teams? Here's some regular teams from Matt and friends. Oh, of course Jin is using this. Dude, Jin is the Trick Room Maestra along with Tommy. Like, this is Indeedee, Hatterene, Torkoal. Like, dude, you gotta stick to your roots, right? So, you know, shout out to Jin, you know, real homie over there. Francis, Matt Francis. So regular physical Ursaluna here, but Fluttermane Chiyu, of course. So this makes sense. Oh, this is Swords Dance. Okay, I like that. Can I get one more? Oh, here's another one. Okay. So let's see what this one is. Another life. Oh, Vacuum Wave. Whew, that's a tech. All right, and then of course Frigga. So I like to see. So either it's like Cresselia Trick Room or Farigiraf Trick Room, and you know the idea with Farigiraf is, you know, as opposed to Cresselia, like Cresselia can still set up Trick Room, but you're still prone to priority moves. So sometimes your Trick Room doesn't even matter. Farigiraf says now it does matter. So now your Trick Room is safe and your priority moves are not going to be clicked. So yeah, that's the main benefit of having Farigiraf as your Trick Room center. So I can totally understand. Like, you could technically just replace this with Crest, but again, Farigiraf is just really, really good at denying priority against Trick Room teams. Then as we go down here, right, standard Trick Room stuff with, you know, a lot of Psy spam. So, you know, that was pretty cool to see. This one is the Sun variant. This almost looks like a Regulation D team. Yeah, it's pretty much a Regulation D team, except there's an Ogerpon here. So, you know, enabling the Fluttermane with Torkoal, clicking Trick Room, but again, clicking... Oh, what is this? Fissure and Flare Blitz. What is this? Physical Torkoal? Wait a minute. Nah, man. What is this? I gotta talk to this guy. Whoa. This is crazy. What is this? Oh, that's nutty. I like that. I'm not even gonna hate on that. that's kind of cool. Is there another? Oh, there's a couple more. All right, so here's one from Marcos with the Sinistra variant. So he started out here with Landorus, Iron Hands, and Sinistra. I agree with that. Then he went with Chenpao, and is that Landorus? Yeah, that is. Okay. Yeah, I mean, makes a lot of sense. Very standard set here. I have no complaints here from Marcos. So this is the Calm Mind Ursaluna. So that's another cool one. That's been going around a little bit. I can understand that. And you have the redirection support and fake out pressure to help you set that up. So I totally get that. I'll do one more here. Alright, how about Chris's one with Kingambit? Another Life Orb Blood Moon Ursaluna. So either you're going like, you know, either Calm Mind, you're going Throat Spray, you're going Life Orb here. So this makes sense. And then here's Kowtow Cleave, Iron Head, but no Swords Dance. Okay, I understand here. So cool results from Blood Moon Ursaluna altogether. It's a great mod. It does so much damage. How about some Illumise love? So there was two results here, and you know, you had to wonder, is Illumise legit? Let's take a look. It's another prankster Pokemon, Tailwind, but the main idea, look at this, fake tears. That's gonna do so much with Chiyu and Fluttermane, and I totally understand it. Mental Herb, so you can't get taunted, and then Infestation. Oh my goodness, that's a set. Yeah, I like this. And then, you know, it's just from here, it's just standard stuff. Look, Landorus, Iron Hands, Chiyu, Fluttermane, a 2-2 combination, and then slap on an Ogerpon. Why not? So good job here from Carson. What about like Marcus here? Because I know Marcus was also running. Yeah, here's another Illumise. Was it the same set? I think it's the same team. Almost the same team. Is it? Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, Encore and Infestation, Fake Wind, Fake Tears, Tailwind. So that's the main separation versus, like, you know, Tornadus and Grimmsnarl. Like, Grimmsnarl gets Fake Tears, doesn't get Tailwind. Tornadus gets Tailwind, doesn't get Fake Tears. Illumise gets both. Okay, so You know, sounds pretty cool, and I give them a lot of props for using it. They must have tested this and knew their lines a lot, you know, to try and bring this. It's actually a pretty decent amount. I've seen this in some top cuts and some, you know, limitless tours. So, you know, I like this a lot. Maybe we might see more of this in Sacramento. I'm not sure, but we'll see. But yeah, like, here's another prankster Pokemon that we got to add into the tier list. Like, is this as good as Tornadus, for example? Is this good as Grimmsnarl? We don't know. We'll have to wait and see. We have to talk about Salamence. You guys know how much I enjoy Salamence, especially even back in Regulation D. I thought of it first. Okay, I just want to say that. I thought of it first. You guys mocked me in Regulation D. You said, no, Salamence is not good. Ha! We made it work in Regulation D, and now we see it here in Regulation E, even better than what it once was in Regulation D. Why? Because you are a flying type with Intimidate, you know, just like Landers, but you don't need to commit your Terrestrialization for flying stat moves, okay? And then at the same time, Dragon typing is good now, right? You resist all these Ogerpon Fire Water Grass moves, okay? And because of your Intimidate, you can outbulk them. You get access to Tailwind, okay? And then you get Terra Steel Iron Head, for example, like we did in Regulation D. Salamence is the sauce. How many times I gotta tell you guys that Salamence is the play? And I like this team from Andy over here. So Salamence, this is actually how I started my Regulation E team with Salamence. All right, we're gonna reveal it soon, but he's got 3 of the pieces. We started with Salamence, Kingambit, and Fluttermane. Let's start with those 3, right? Why? Because we got a Dragon Fairy Steel Cord. That's our fantasy cord, okay? You know, you want to intimidate Salamence, you got to deal with Kingambit, okay? And then at the same time, we have a strong Fluttermane Fairy type that we can have additional speed control with Icy Wind, like Andy did over here. And then after that, you guys know how I build my teams. I'm going with the Fire Water Grass Core at the end of the day, and he kind of has that here, right? You got a Breloom over here. You got a Slowbro. You know, there's your Grass type. There's your Water type, and then you got an Ogerpon over here, right? The Rock one, as opposed to like the Fire one, which I think we might see more of this, just because it does well into the Fire type matchup and other flying types in general. But like, this is pretty cool. Ooh, nah. It gets knockoff. That's pretty good, right? Well, all the Ogres got knockoff, right? But Breloom's pretty cool here. Like, under Tailwind, dude, Spore, Tailwind is always a threat. And then you get Stab, Mach Punch, and then Bullet Seed. This is Technician, by the way, so these are going to do like a whole ton of damage. And if you want to intimidate Breloom, dude, you got to deal with the Kingambit. Life Orb Kingambit with Assurance. So Tailwind's going to be great here, okay? And then I love the Slowbro pick, like Scald and Yawn and Trick Room. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I like this a lot. And then you even get like Psyshock here, so that's also pretty cool. I like this. This makes sense. Like, you could have easily just slapped on Iron Hands and then slapped on, you know, a Fire Ogerpon and then something like, I don't know, Iron Bundle. I'm not saying that this is my 6, but you know, you could have easily done that. But my guy Andy says, no, we're going with Slowbro, with Trick Room and Yawn and Scald. We got the Rock Ogerpon. We got the Breloom with the Spore. Listen, you can't argue the results. But if you had to build your own Salamence team, this is how I would do it. Salamence, Fluttermane, and Kingambit. All right. Then from there, give me a Fake Out Mon, give me a Redirector, and then, you know, give me an Iron Hands, right? So I like this a lot. I expect to see a lot more Salamence moving forward. I've seen this in a little bit in some Regulation E online tours. So, you know, it's really cool to see this here. But yeah, shout outs to Andy. So yeah, that's kind of how I wanted to summarize, you know, the regional here. So like, what are we getting out of this? Ogerpon is here to stay, right? Of course, it's gonna be like top 5 usage throughout the format. You know, water and fire are gonna be great. The rock one is not bad. All right, I expect to see a little bit more rock, but still the water and the fire one are king. You know, Blood Moon, Ursaluna teams are very, very strong. Even the Roaring Moon teams, I forgot to cover some of these Roaring Moon teams. Like, here's one from Giovanni. Dragon Dance, Roaring Moon with Landers and Heatran and Flutter. It makes sense. Here's an Ogerpon, here's a Rillaboom, double Grassy Glide combination. Yeah, very, very standard stuff. We also had a Roaring Moon team, right? That we also put out. I like the Dragon typing in general is very good because you're able to resist a lot of these Ogerpon damages. You know, and then from there you're just able to sweep them right back, okay? Because a lot of these dragons, they all get flying type moves, okay? But that being said, Kingambit is going to be a great Pokemon to use moving forward. The Intimidate users like Landers and Arcanine, and to an extent Gyarados. They're going to be good, but at the same time, you know, I think Salamence can also enter the fray there. Don't sleep on Salamence, okay? And then Among Us, there's a little bit of Among Us. It hasn't dropped off completely, right? There's a lot of hype with the Ogre Pawns and Sinistra, but Among Us is still good. I expect it to come back a little bit more in some of these upcoming regionals. Fluttermane Chiyu teams are very, very strong, especially with Tornado Sunny Day. Be on the lookout for those teams. Milotic had a good showcase, right? Not just here in this slot in particular, but just overall. It's a really good competitive Pokemon. Very, very bulky. You'll see it on some Baxcalibur teams, of course. Speaking of Baxcalibur, like we said, Dragon typing is really good. But then overall, like, there was a little bit of size spam, right? So that's still, like, relevant. So yeah, size spam is still, like, okay to use to an extent. You still get, like, these Dondozo teams, you know, the 2-2-2 team with, you know, Dondozo Tatsugiri, Fluttermane Chiyu, but this is Ogerpon Fluttermane. And then Chanpao Dragonite. Makes a lot of sense. Okay, yeah. Chanpao with Ogerpon. Okay, sure. I think we might see a little bit more Dusclops moving forward. And maybe taking that Cresselia slot a little bit just because of how bulky it is. But I think Cresselia is, like, still very, very, very strong. Okay, I don't think it'll overtake it, but I do expect a little bit more Dusclops. There were some Weezing teams, right? So, you know, imagine, like, a standard 5 team, but just slap on a Weezing. Yeah, it just makes sense altogether. You know, a little bit of Empoleon, not too much, but overall, you know, a lot of the results are what we expect. Like, Landorus Iron Hands are gonna come, slap on an Ogerpon, okay, pick your favorite dragon type, and then from there, give me Ninetales, give me Rillaboom, you know, get you know, Fluttermane for that matter, Chiyu. But yeah, overall, it was as expected. You know, a lot of these teams, yeah, they'll have, like, some of these same mods, but, like, these little tweaks in some of their movesets make all the difference in how they function. We say that all the time. All right. But that's going to do it for now, folks. Let me know what you think of the Peoria Regionals. And if you're trying to get ready for Sacramento, you know, feel free to sign up for coaching on the channel. Tier 3 sub, get you there. We have a few sessions booked already for some people. You get to get another result here, like we have over here for Mitch, with that 6-3 result, getting him CP. So if you want to also get some CP at a regional, feel free to sign up with us with the tier 3 sub on the channel. And then from there, you're able to message me, and then we can plan out a session on Discord. And then from there, we get you that team that you need for an upcoming regional or an online tournament, or just simply ranked ladder play. Whatever you need, we got you covered. Sign up on the channel today. But yeah, that's it for now, folks. We'll be back with another video in the next one. Peace out, and have a good one.